everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to show you guys how I like to do a do-it-yourself stipple job for a polymer frame handgun. I'm going to be using my Smith & Wesson M&P 22 Compact. It's just got the standard factory molded in texturing on it. Not a lot there. It's not super grippy or anything like I prefer. However, for me, this is a practice and blinking kind of gun. It's not a self-defense gun or a home defense gun or anything for me. So I don't see it as an important feature for this gun. But since I have stippled all the guns that I want to stipple at this point, I'm just going to use this as an example to show you guys the process. It's the same thing. Now, you can send this off to another company and have them do it for you. There are companies like Agency Arms and a whole bunch of other ones out there. I'm not going to start naming all the names, but they'll do this for you. But when you do that, you lose your gun for however long their turnaround time is, and it can cost you $100 or more, depending on the company, how big the piece is, all that good stuff. So personally, I don't care how good it looks. This is my Glock 17 Gen 3 here. It's not the prettiest stipple job in the world. I did this myself, and I intentionally left this side of the gun blank because I didn't want it rubbing against my clothes. But it cost me $12 for a soldering iron. So way cheaper, just as functional. I can do it exactly how I want, and then I don't have to pay all that money and be without my gun for that long. But if you're big into how it looks, if that matters to you, or if you don't feel you can do this without damaging the frame of the gun or without making it look like trash, then absolutely send it to one of those companies and they'll do a great job for you. So with all that being said, let's just jump into the table and I'll show you guys how I do this. Alright guys, I've got a slightly different setup here. I hope the lighting's good for you. I've been using my wife's light ring that she uses for her Facebook Live videos for her business, and it just kind of makes the setup a little bit more complicated, so I decided to do something different. And I don't have the light ring going right now, but here's the gun we're going to be using for this project. And before you do anything like this, just like any other kind of maintenance or work on your guns, you want to make sure that it is unloaded. So take the magazine out. We'll check the chamber here, and I can see down in there that it is unloaded. So I like to disassemble the pistol typically. However, because this is the threaded barrel model of the M&P 22 Compact, it has this adapter on the end of the barrel there, and you can see it's kind of scuffed up because I've tried several different ways to get this thing off. The tool that they sent out to do this with broke. I contacted them and requested a new one. They sent it out for free, and it was here very quickly, and it also broke, and this extension has never budged. So yeah, I just kind of cleaned this thing, put together like it is, and one of these days maybe I'll buy a wrench and mill it to the width of those slots and call it good. But either way, I'm just gonna leave the gun together for this video. Hope you guys don't mind that. You can do it with the gun fully assembled like this. It's not gonna hurt anything. It's just a bit more work. You're gonna have to work around the gun a little bit more if you don't disassemble it. So also, I'm gonna try not to bump the tripod too much for you guys, but I can't make any promises, so if I do, I'll apologize for that in advance. Now, what I've already done is I've plugged my soldering irons in. I've actually got 2 of them, but you only need 1. I just have 2, so I have a couple of different size tips here. So I've got a pointy tip that you guys can kind of see right there, if it'll focus maybe. There we go. And I've got a flat tip as well. So for different guns or different patterns and things, I can do different designs. I like to use the pointy one more often, but sometimes the flat tip screwdriver looking one is a little bit handy. Now, there are a couple different things you can do to start this project. You can just leave the frame textured as it is here and not worry about any of that. Or what I did with my Glock is, and I'll go ahead and unload it so I can manipulate it a bit more safely on camera for you guys. I actually took a Dremel and I dremeled out some different parts on this gun. So I took a little bit of material off the back strap, took some material off between the finger grooves. I undercut the trigger guard there, which is a pretty common mod that people like to do to Glocks. But I did that because this gun was just slightly bigger than other guns that I was used to handling. And I had to alter my grip with my hand size and my finger length to engage the inertial safety there on the trigger. So I just decided to take some material off in the process. And I took the factory molding off, except for on this side. Now, I like to leave the left side of my guns as they come from the factory because I'm right-handed. So what that does is it prevents it from rubbing as much against my skin or my shirts or whatever if I'm carrying it. It doesn't really bother the outside of my shirt or the inside of my cover garment, whether it's a shirt or a jacket or anything, for it to be stippled over here. But that would be pretty fun to carry appendix if I stippled that. And by fun, I mean painful and annoying, and I wouldn't want to carry the gun anymore. So that's just my choice. Most companies out there do the entire grip. It's personal preference, guys. It's up to you. Plus, this is quicker. You have less to stipple. So go ahead and load this back up. I am carrying this today, as I'm sure you saw in the video, or the opening of the video. Just around the house, I was grilling some steaks earlier and stuff. So just open carry on the belt. Nothing crazy. Pretty comfortable. I can still carry a full-size gun. But back to this thing. Since we already know it's unloaded, we'll just go ahead and get started. Now, with the pre-molded design that they already have, at least with the Smith & Wessons, I've stippled my shield and my M&P 45 too. I kind of like to follow the contours of what they already have. I don't really take this texturing off, but I will on a Glock. So it just kind of depends on the gun. So I'll take my pointy soldering iron, and I'll try to do this on camera and keep it in frame for you guys through the viewfinder. It's kind of fun. You just kind of have to pick a spot. Doesn't really matter. I like to start in corners just because it makes things easy. So I'll start right here, and I will just make sure this is in frame. Press it in, hold it for a couple seconds and pull it out. And then you can check it and see if it's going to be deep enough for you or not. I like to go a little deep. Now, you don't want to go too deep, or you will go into the internals of the gun and cause yourself some problems. So just be mindful of that. This is going to smell bad too, so you may want to be in a ventilated room. I mean, you are literally melting plastic, so keep that in mind. If you're in the state of California, this is probably known to cause cancer and extreme conservatism and patriotism and all those other things that are just, terrible to the state of California. Put that disclaimer out there. And then I just kind of follow a pattern. It's a very slow and tedious process. Typically, I like to watch YouTube videos or something while I do this, or listen to YouTube videos, because you kind of have to keep your eyes on what you're doing. You're not going to be able to do this freehand like something else. You're going to be pretty focused on the work. And as you can see, it takes some time to do. But the end product is well worth it. And it looks like this gun is actually black on the, it's just a FDE coating of some sort. They didn't dye all of the polymer. So this should have a pretty interesting two-tone look when I get done. Now you see how it's stringing like that? That's not a big deal. It's not going to hurt anything. But what that does is kind of gets in the way and you have to work around it. Let me see if I can turn the light on the camera on for you guys. I don't know if I can, but yeah, okay. Guess not. Tell you what, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go grab my headlamp so I can wear that for some lighting for you guys, because I feel like this is kind of crappy. Alright guys, I tried the headlamp out, and that's not going to work. We're just playing with too many shadows and stuff because of the camera setup. So I apologize, but what I'll do is I'll actually zoom in a little bit. Just make it maybe a little easier for you guys to see. The lighting's just not going to be great in this video, so I'm sorry about that. Also, I just bumped the tripod because I'm trying to maneuver my cord. There we go. Alright. Let's just keep going here. So, again, following the contours. This will go easier and quicker if you guys are doing it yourselves and not sitting on the other side of a camera while you do it. And you see the plastic that's bubbling up there on the outside? I like to keep that there. I don't want to pull that away with the soldering iron. That's why you want a nice hot soldering iron, because if you have a soldering iron that's too cold, then the plastic will kind of solidify again on the tip of the soldering iron, and it'll pull away, and you won't have that nice stippling that you otherwise would. Another thing I found out, actually by accident, is when you buy one of these soldering irons, at least this is a Weller soldering iron, I just got this at Home Depot. It came with a few different tips, the flat tip, the pointy tip, and I think another kind of tip. And the pointy tip is actually super pointy. So I like to have the bigger circles in these, I don't know, dots, whatever you want to call them. And as it comes in the box, the pointy tip is just too small at the point. So in order to get the bigger circles, I was pushing too deep. Well, eventually, using this thing enough, it got hot enough that that tip broke. So it's a much less delicate tip now. Just kind of like if you guys use your knife to pry on something and you end up chipping off the tip of your knife, it's the same thing. It's less delicate now. I'm going to lock this open just to be safer about it. I am going to have to kind of point it in all kinds of different directions. And I found that when that tip broke, it actually did better for me. I liked the result better. So zoom out a little bit. I'm actually going to pick this thing up and bring it closer to the camera here. And you just keep doing this. You just kind of work around. I like to go in as perpendicular as possible to the surface. So like where it curves and stuff, I like to move the gun and kind of keep the soldering iron still, because you want to go straight in. You don't want to go in at like a weird angle or something and, you know, take a chunk out of your frame. That line right there around the texturing is actually a really good guide. If you guys can see that line right there. And this soldering iron has lights built into it that kind of illuminate the spot you're looking at. Works better in person than it does on camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the editing now, or cut the video, and then I will come back when I finish this first round and show you guys a little bit more, and we'll just keep going from there. Once you do this enough, you kind of speed up, you get into a rhythm, and it just kind of works out. However, I just realized that I was not showing any of that on frame. So but yeah, you get into a rhythm and it becomes easier. So I'll be back in just a minute. All right, guys, so we've got once around done, and I did end up going kind of far over on the left side, even though I don't typically do that, just to try to keep the pattern somewhat clean based on the molding that comes from the factory. So it's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to have a little bit more texturing than I'm used to on the left side of the gun. But again, I'm not going to carry this gun, so I don't care so much. The other benefit of that is my wife does shoot, well, she shoots rifles left-handed. She shoots handguns right-handed, but she's also new enough that she may decide to change because she's left-eye dominant and right-handed. She may decide she just wants to start shooting all of her guns left-handed. So who knows? Either way, doesn't really matter for the purposes of this video. Now that I've gotten one layer done around, all I'm going to do is just keep doing the same thing. I'll start right next to where I started the first time and keep working inward until this entire surface is covered. So since that's over, or not, since that first layer's done, I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off camera, and I will come back when I go to the next section to show you guys. I'm going to do something different through here where it's not textured from the factory. So be back in a minute. There's actually another tip I wanted to mention to you guys as I'm doing this. When I do it not on the other side of a camera, I like to kind of get in close and make sure that I'm putting my soldering iron tip exactly where I want it. And because of the fumes and the heat and stuff, it is a good idea to wear safety glasses when you're doing this. I'm not right now, but I'm far enough away from it that none of those fumes and none of that smoke and stuff is coming up into my eyes. But it is a real thing. It will burn your eyes, and wearing safety glasses just kind of helps prevent that a little bit. Also, you want to kind of like take a break for a second, come away, get some fresh air if you are breathing this in. And I don't think it's going to hurt you or anything, but I kind of hold my breath a little bit while I'm doing it. And then I'll just come away for a second and breathe in and then kind of go back into it. It doesn't smell the best. Like I said, you're not going to want to do this in your wife's kitchen because she will get very unhappy with you that you just made her kitchen smell like a plant or something. I don't know, an industrial plant, not like a rose kind of plant. Maybe if you buy her roses, though, she'll be okay with it. Anyway, while that was on my brain, wanted to mention it to you guys. Now I'll stop the video again and bring you back in when I move on to the next section of the gun. Something else I just remembered that you guys are going to want to do periodically is you see how the plastic is starting to build up there on the tip of the soldering iron tip. I just take a knife or a razor blade or something and just periodically scrape that off. Because what it's going to do is it's going to cause your dimples, holes, whatever, to not be as clean, and they're going to want to kind of tear and pull and stretch and whatnot. So doing that, keeping that tip clean, keep your tip clean, guys, just kind of helps make this process go a little bit more smoothly. While I got you here, I am a bit further along on the back, and it's starting to look fairly good. I might want to go back and just get inside that line, since I did kind of move over to the line on this side, but that's pretty easy to do. When you're doing it, guys, just make sure you're being nice and consistent, filling in all the gaps. Take your time, make it look, as nice as you can, obviously, but you don't want to just leave lots of gaps in there, because it's not going to look good, and it's not going to be as functional. It's not going to give you as much grippy surface. So I'm going to keep going and then see you guys back in a second. Alright, guys, so now that back section is done, you can see, actually, that's a really cool two-tone look. I really like that. But if you look closely, you can see all those little hair-looking things sticking up. Oh, there's a really bad one right there. That are from the stippling process. That's just where the plastic held on to the tip and pulled away with it. And it doesn't look that bad, but you put this thing in your hand, you get a good grip on it, they're going to be like little tiger claws digging into your palm. So at this point, I like to take my soldering iron, since it's nice and hot, just kind of run it sideways over the stippling, just a bit in some of those places. Doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but the goal is just to melt down some of those really high pointy spots. You're not gonna hurt the texturing here. You're not gonna kind of undo all the work you just did. You're just gonna make it a little bit more even and a little bit more comfortable for you to hold on to and use. So just do that a little bit, kind of all over. And it'll be much better, much more even and consistent, and not painful, at least not for me. If you don't like an aggressive grip, I don't recommend doing this to your gun, because it will get painful for you, especially if it has a lot of recoil to it. Yeah, that feels nice. It's not too painful. It's locking in. I mean, this doesn't want to go anywhere. And I've only done the back so far. Now, if you notice, I didn't do too high up here in the back, where like the web of your hand sits. I did that accidentally on my first few Glocks, and after taking them out to the range and shooting them, I realized that was a mistake, because this is very sensitive skin right here, and it will rub this raw, give you blisters, it'll cut you open. It's not pleasant. So that spot I like to kind of leave alone and leave it as it is, just to kind of avoid that. The heel of your hand, the palm, the fingertips, those are going to be tougher than this, so they can take a little bit more of that abrasiveness and abuse. So now I'm going to move on to this non-textured section here, and by non-textured I mean non-textured from the factory or by me. And what I like to do sometimes is I'll take my flathead screwdriver looking tip, and I've done horizontal lines, I've done like a crisscross diamond type pattern, and so I think this time I'm actually going to do that diamondy pattern a little bit, just to show you guys that you have some different options besides just the straight in holes, if that's not your thing. So what I like to do is, again, just kind of pick a starting point, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see better. Pick a starting point and just start, kind of get your angle, whatever the angle. I like to do a 45-ish angle. I'm not going to like protractor it out or anything, but go in And one thing I like to do personally is leave my logos. If there's a logo molded in like this Smith & Wesson logo, I don't want to go over that. So I'll just come over here on the other side about even with the line I just made, and I'll keep going. Again, kind of hard to do this on camera for you guys, but I want you to be able to see all this. So that's my first line. I would just keep doing that. Now you can either do them right next to each other or put some space in there. I like to put the lines right next to each other, kind of like this. And yes, I hum to myself while I work sometimes. And yes, I talk to myself and I answer myself. So am I crazy? It's possible. I guess you guys will have to ask my wife. Which, by the way, I'm filming a few videos tonight. And one of the videos I'm filming, my wife is actually going to join me. If you want to know what that video is going to be, you'll just have to watch it when it comes out in a couple of days. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to post, but this one will post before that one posts. So you guys will get a nice little sneak peek treat. So yeah, I kind of like to put the lines right next to each other like that. Doesn't look as good as this, I don't think. And again, that's because I'm just not the best at doing this. I don't have the steadiest hands in the world when it comes to fine detail stuff like this. But once I do all my 45-degree lines going this way, then I'll come back over and do all the ones going opposite to put a sort of diamondy pattern in there. So I'm going to cut the camera again, and I will come back when it's time to show you guys that process. All right, so I've gotten my first layer of 45-ish degree angle lines done. And something else that you want to think about when you're doing this, guys, is where you want to start and stop. Like I said, for example, I like to keep my logos there. I don't want to burn through that. So I knew I needed to work around that. I actually need to go in and touch it up a little bit, make it look better. I didn't want to come up front because I'm going to do the same thing to the front that I did to the back. So I don't want to go ahead and melt that and mark it up. And I wanted to try to blend it a little bit because I didn't want to come all the way up. I didn't want to go around the mag release or any of that stuff. I wanted to kind of blend it into this back section here. So the way I'm doing that is I'm just taking the soldering iron and coming in at this kind of angle, if you guys can see that, versus perpendicular. I'm bringing the tip up, so I'm just hitting it with the edge there, because I also don't really want to put that flat head shape into the work I just did on the back. So now that I'm done with that first set of lines, I'm going to come back in and at the opposite angle, so at about a 90-degree angle, once I touch this up, I'm going to come back in at that 90-ish degree angle from the ones I just did, and I'm going to work on those. So see if I can show you guys some of that on camera. Zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Let's start there. And this will give it kind of that crisscrossy kind of pattern. Now this is really hard for me to do all the way back here with all these marks being black and my eyes not wanting to focus with it being so far away. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the camera here. Oh, actually, before I do that, I did want to talk about kind of the bottom edge around your mag well. You want to make sure that as you're doing this, you're not creating melted plastic that's coming down all the way, or not all the way, but coming down and below the bottom of the mag well, because you guys want to make sure you can still put your magazine in and that you don't have melted plastic that's solidified again, kind of preventing that mag from going in. So just something to keep in mind when you guys are doing this. Like I said, I'm going to cut the camera and I'll come back when I get done with these lines. All right, guys, so I got that section there done, and I think it actually looks pretty good for the most part. You can kind of see the crisscross pattern in there a little bit. Again, the lighting's not that great. Pretty well textured. I mean, it's definitely grippy for sure. Feels good. Now, you don't really need to do the sides of the gun. I should have mentioned that before. That's not necessary because where you're really gripping the pistol is the back and the front because of that force of the slide coming back and forth. It's doing this in your hand. So you're not really going to get a whole lot of added benefit from this other than the looks, but I wanted to add it for that look aspect again, just to make it kind of seamless all the way around. I think it would look good without it too, though, just because it does still kind of have that two-tone look, and it would have been like the black, the FDE, the black. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it right there as well, mostly to show you guys, honestly, some of the different options and stuff you have. This really is your own thing. I mean, you're doing it yourself, so you can do it however you want to do it, guys. It's really up to you. And another thing that you guys maybe want to think about, if you've never done this before, you're not super confident in your ability to do it or to do it well, or you want to kind of gauge how hard you have to press and you want something to practice with, that's not a bad thing at all. Buy a cheap AR grip or a cheap like vertical grip or something like that. I had a martial arts training gun, a training pistol that I used the first time, and I stippled it, and definitely learned some lessons doing that. And it ended up being not the best idea because I did later on use that for training in martial arts stuff. And when you're doing gun takeaways with that thing, it hurts getting it ripped out of your hand. So it does go to show you that the stippling is effective in what it's supposed to be for. But like I said earlier, I'm gonna do the same thing to the front here that I did on the back. Same exact pattern. I'm not gonna come up under the trigger guard. Just kind of don't want that rubbing the top of my knuckle there. So I'll keep it even right around below the mag release or so. And I'm not gonna bore you guys by videoing that and showing it to you. I'll come back at the end and talk about the process overall once I'm done. All right, guys, here's the final product. Completely done. Now, there are other things you can do. I mean, like I said, this is your project. You can do what you want. I tend to like to put some stippling up here where my index finger goes when it's not on the trigger, just as kind of an indexing point to kind of train my brain. I don't know if I'm going to do it on this one or not. Again, it is just a 22. It's a plinking gun. I don't have a holster for it or anything, so I don't know that I need it there, but I'll probably end up doing it at some point just because. You can do like the angles that Agency does on theirs. I've never done one of those, but it's like a place for your thumb essentially to kind of give it something to push down on for recoil. All kinds of options and stuff out there you guys can do. I also kind of like to do mag releases on Glocks, especially. Some guns I don't really care so much about it, but if it's plastic, a lot of times I'll stipple that just because too. If this is too aggressive for you when you get done and you're like, oh, I don't know, that's really, really grippy and rough and abrasive, you can just take a little bit of mild sandpaper, like 400 grit or something, or just your soldering iron that you just used, and run over it a little bit, melt it down, and that will take that edge off of the grippiness of the frame. So not going to hurt anything in the least. And it's kind of hard to screw up. I mean, you can do it on this gun in particular because the mag well is so thick. The grips here, there's just a lot of space. It's really hard to push too hard and push through into your mag well. But on my Glocks, I actually did kind of go through into my mag well a little bit in some spots because it is a lot thinner plastic there, especially in the front. So just something to keep in mind. Again, $12, and I can do literally every polymer gun, grip, vertical grip, AFG, shotgun stock, rifle stock, pump handle, any of that stuff I want to stipple, I can stipple for $12, $15, whatever your soldering iron costs at your local store, versus having to send a gun off or a part off and pay $50, $100, $150, whatever it may be per gun, and then I'm without that gun or that part for that long. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's the video. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me, guys. If you like the video, you like what you see here, feel free to hit that subscribe button, please. Go check out my other videos too. See if there's something there you like or you feel like you find some value there. Hit the like button, share the video, all those good things. Comment down below if you guys have any questions, if there's something I wasn't clear enough about in this video, or if you have other techniques or other ways you like to do this, if you've done it yourself. Put that down below too, because I'm sure lots of guys would be interested in reading about that. So thanks again, everyone. I hope you guys have a great day. Roll Tide. Take it easy. And I'll see you next time.